Order Brainerd Safety and Public Works Committee meeting Monday, November 20th, 2023 at 7 p.m. Council chambers. We have 6 items. We're going to switch the number 6 item up to number 1, just so we can get Mr. Kronvik out of here and down to P&F. So our first item tonight will be direction on active code enforcement cases. Mr. Kronvik, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So staff is bringing one property before the committee for review at 319 North 9th Street. A violation letter as well as 3 citations have been sent to the property owner with no response for an unlicensed vehicle. So at this point, staff is recommending sending kind of a final 10-day notice of potential abatement and obtaining a search warrant to abate the vehicle at 319 North 9th Street. And I can certainly answer any questions.
Is there questions?
I'll make a motion to approve his recommendation.
Second.
Motion is second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, number 2, we have a resolution of support for the Trunk Highway 210 Lum Park Pedestrian Bridge TA grant. It's Transportation Alternatives Grant. Safety and Public Works Director Jesse Dean, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So on October 16th, the council authorized staff to apply for the Transportation Alternatives Grant Program for the Highway 210 Lum Park Pedestrian Bridge. Attached are 2 resolutions that staff needs to include in the grant application and can answer any questions the council has.
Are we, can I ask?
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
I know we are doing these 2 applications or resolutions separately. There's another one right after this. Is first one contingent on the other in any way at all? The first one, this is just for maintenance, and what else is this one for?
Sponsoring agencies. So
Sponsor.
one is that we would agree to maintain the facility through its useful life. The other one is that we would come up with, obviously, whatever remaining funds beyond what the grant provides.
That's the second one coming up.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Those are, I apologize, those are both for this specific grant item.
Yep.
So that's combined in this one item here?
Yep, there are
believe
2
there's
resolutions, correct.
2 resolutions for one.
Oh, there's 2 resolutions for the same application.
That is correct. Yep.
And the next one, I believe, just has 1.
Correct.
Yeah.
But the second resolution is specific for the pay for what the grants don't cover.
Correct. Sponsoring agency resolution, yep.
So is one contingent upon the other in any way?
Yes, if you don't fund the project, obviously you're not going to maintain the facility that we don't construct.
Okay, so when we get down to the amount of money we get in grants for this approximate $4+ million project, and we're $2.5 million short, we've received grant money, we're obligated to pay the remainder out of whatever funds we can scrape together?
That would be up to the council at what level they feel like they would want to fund the project.
At some point, we'll know how much we've received in grants, maybe bonding. If it's still too much of a gap there, we can always back off. But hopefully, with all the stuff we're stringing together, we get pretty close.
Okay, this doesn't commit us then to moving forward, whether we have the money in grants or not.
Correct.
Okay, that was my concern. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it never looks good to be awarded a grant and then not use that money. But if in case we were way short and we just couldn't afford it, then we would have to pull back.
Yeah, we did it years ago for a corridor study on the Mississippi River to get a crossing at French Rapids for $1 million.
Yep.
Never used that, but
Sure.
it didn't look good though either, so you're right.
All right.
So do you want this as one motion or 2?
We have 2 separate resolutions, yeah.
The motion is, to recommend adopting the attached resolutions. So I think we can have one motion here. We'll have to do 2 resolutions in council.
Okay. Then I will make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion is second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All
Aye.
in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, moving on to the next resolution of support. This is another Trunk Highway 210 Lum Park Pedestrian Bridge AT grant. And this is active transportation. So, Mr. Dean, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So similar to the last item, on October 2nd, council authorized SRF to apply for the active transportation grant program for the same bridge project. The attached resolution is required to be included in the grant application and can answer any questions.
It's not coming to me. I know I read this, I lost it. A brief description of what I'm sorry,
It's kind of like the half of the last one. So there was two resolutions. One was for maintenance. This one is basically still saying, just like as in the other one, we would come up with the remaining funds.
okay, that's where I got mistaken.
Okay.
Okay, so is this in any way, it doesn't obligate us?
This is a different grant program, and no, if we get the grant funding, it does not obligate us to construct the project.
Okay. But if we do decide to construct it, we have to come up with what we're not getting in grant money.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Boy, I hate doing this.
One step at a time. I think as
Yeah,
it comes
yeah.
together, we got years of this ahead of us before anything happens. But
You make it so easy, Mike.
it is what it is.
I'll move to approve it.
Second.
Motion and second. Any more discussion? You're done. Go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, next one is awarding the contract for the improvement 2115 Buffalo Hills Gully Remediation Project. Mr. Dean, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So bids were open for the Buffalo Hills Gully Remediation Project, and we received 10 bids, not 12 on the item, but 10 bids. The low bidder for the project was Tom's Backhoe with a bid amount of $870,113.10, amounting to roughly 33% below the engineer's estimate. Staff attached the bid tabulation and a statement of qualifications from Tom Backhoe. Staff's requesting discussion and direction from the council on the award for the project. Both staff, the assistant city engineer, and the city attorney are all here available for questions from the council.
You guys have any questions?
Go ahead, Tiffany.
I usually wait until you come up with some good ones.
I'm gonna lean on our chairman.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. I'm comfortable going forward after reading through this stuff. This project is essentially in Tom's Backhoe's backyard. They've been around this area, working in that area, so mobilization is a lot easier for them. That's just one of the things that comes in under budget. Not a lot of times you see these come in this far under budget. So unless staff has any concerns about procedural items or anything that we have to go through, that we have to make sure things are done in a certain way that may not meet this, is there any concern there? As far as, that's gonna keep it under budget, within the estimate? Or the bid, I should say?
The bid is concerningly low compared to with other bids and the estimate. To your point, mobilization was a little bit low compared to others. Vicinity is a factor in that. There are some other items where they are a bit lower than other bidders in there. So there are concerns that we do have of making sure that, they have the appropriate scope of the work in the project reflected in their bid. Ultimately, what we want to do is get a good project constructed, and making sure that they have a responsible bid helps with that. Lowers the potential that we're going to see some things that the contractor was not expecting or anticipating in the project, and want to seek change orders or additional compensation for those things.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
So, when you see this much of a discrepancy, you have a talk with them and go over everything, right? Make sure that they're understanding,
Correct.
okay? And obviously, they know we're not gonna be in favor of any kind of significant change orders. I mean, a little bit here or there is one thing, but when you start getting up in the tens and tens of thousands of dollars, we're gonna have I mean, everybody knows this, right? We're gonna have trouble with approving those types of changes if they come up.
So if the project does not reflect what we're looking for, or we make a change during the project, it's tough to put a dollar amount on what's acceptable, what's not. It really depends on the scope of work. But based on the plans, with the expecting large sums of change orders before the project has even begun, that's a little bit more of a challenge. If you come in unforeseen circumstances while you are constructing the project, that may be something that is worth reviewing with the contractor out on the site, but that shouldn't happen prior to.
Right, okay. So, of course, if there's changes as the project is beginning or something is found, say, in the early stages, that's a little different than getting in the middle of something and, oops, this is something unexpected, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So we've already had design work done, was it SEH? Or, no, it was,
HR Green.
HR Green. So HR Green has already done design work, and in that design work, they have to go through quite a bit of detail on what work actually has to be done. So in your conversations with, Mr. Thompson or anybody from Tom's Backhoe, was there something of concern that they're not willing to do that is within that design? Or,
Nothing that I heard in that conversation that not willing to do.
okay. Yeah, I feel comfortable moving forward, or at least recommending it to council and bring that discussion.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
And then we have just shy of $1 million grant. What's our local match?
I believe it's 20%, but I'm going to have to double check it.
Okay. It's likely not more than that, right?
Correct.
Okay. That's the first yeah.
And if I can clarify, our local match includes our cost towards engineering, so the design and construction engineering count towards that local match.
Okay.
So at this cost, would that reach close to the amount 20% would cover?
It wouldn't, based on that low bid amount, no, it probably would not. We'd have to turn back some of the grant funding is what we would have to do, most likely.
Well, better have the grant cover more of it than less of it, I think.
I'd go along with that.
Yeah.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right. Next item, we have a discussion on possible sidewalk trail on Beach Street reconstruction. And this is, again, Mr. Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The engineering staff is working on beginning the design of the Beach Street reconstruction project planned for 2025. One clarification staff is requesting from the council is whether or not to include sidewalk or trail in the design of Beach Street. Staff can answer any questions the council may have on this.
I have a question. So I drove it today as well as 28th. I know we're redoing utilities, correct?
Correct.
The huge telephone poles that have the power lines, are we burying the power lines?
No, that's not
That's
part
not
of the
part of
scope
the
of this. Correct.
Okay. Well, in my opinion, if you look at where the trail lines up with 28th, it makes more sense to run that trail on 28th than it does on Beach Street. I'm not against having it on Beach Street instead, because we probably won't get to 28th Street for a project like that, but I think you could add a trail pretty easily on 28th at the same time. So my first thought on this street and considering a sidewalk was how massive the telephone poles are and how many of them there are. And there's power lines going across the street. And if that adds a ton of cost to our utilities part of the project, then I'm not sure we do that. But it was my understanding that we try to bury some of that stuff as much as we can when we redo large projects like that.
If I can clarify, we shouldn't need to impact the electric poles at all with the project. We should be able to accommodate the sidewalk within the available right-of-way space.
Okay.
How many property owners does this impact as far as having to maintain, keep that thing clear of snow if it is a sidewalk? Approximately.
20?
Okay.
It's about 7 blocks, and there's probably, they're fairly large lots for in town, so there's, what, 2 or 3 per block? So, yeah, probably around 20. Side.
Is there much of a grade there to go across driveways and such?
No, it's very flat.
Okay.
My big question is the cost difference. if we were to do the reconstruction of the street, narrow it to 36 feet and not do any sidewalk compared to if we were gonna do a sidewalk and then instead of trail, either one, what would that cost difference be?
So adding the sidewalk is gonna be roughly 110,000, a 6-foot sidewalk.
Okay.
Adding a trail instead of the sidewalk would be roughly 85,000. The big difference between that, why the 8-foot wide trail, is because they're gonna be able to use a paver and go an awful long distance. They'll be able to do that pretty easily with a paver on one pole, especially with very little impact or conflicts along the way. So there's gonna be some savings that way, but it is a little bit of a wider impact. So you have a little bit more for us to have to maintain in the long run.
Did I hear you say 5,000?
85,000.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed that.
And what was the scale of the entire project before that?
You talking about estimate wise?
Yeah.
I'd have to pull that one up.
Was it like $1 million?
At least a couple million. Just a moment.
A couple million just for Beach Street? I don't remember it being that way, but, so 85,000 or 110,000 on $2 million project. It's already gotten expensive. It's not as big of a impact to the size of the project.
Roughly 2.25 million.
2.25 for all of Beach Street
Beach and Oak Ridge.
and Oak Ridge?
Yep.
Okay.
Do we have any requests from citizens for a sidewalk in that corridor?
No, we have not reached out. It's pretty early for us. We're kind of blessed in that we were able to start the process a little bit earlier than we typically do. So we're pretty early. We haven't completely engaged that, but this is where we wanted to get some direction first before we go that route.
Okay.
There are a lot of folks at the end of Beach Street who don't use vehicles as their main form of transportation, though. There's a lot of either foot and bike traffic that go up and down Beach to connect that southern neighborhood to the rest of Brainerd. I think that a trail would be worth the 85,000.
I think it's a better deal, and I think it makes more sense just because there's a trail close by, a trail that we're already building through the DNR, and they're adding to it, as opposed to a sidewalk.
Are citizens required to clean the entire surface of that trail that live along it?
If it's a trail, I don't believe so.
No, they are required to clear the same 6 foot as regular sidewalks. We come through and clear the remainder.
That's, he's out there with a measuring tape.
Good.
Okay.
Could we put this on here as a alternative or an add-on possibly? And when we hear more engagement from citizens on Beach Street, we then make that decision?
We're trying to design it. Right?
Well, just to give some direction to the engineering group on the design.
Right.
But if that's something that we want to include as an add alternate type of thing,
Right, yeah. And
we
if
can
we're
we
gonna
can
do it,
progress that way.
Yeah, if we're gonna do it, I think doing it on the east side of the street would make more sense because you have all the power poles on the west side. And looking at it today when I drove it, that just made more sense. It's more open on the east side of the street.
We can accommodate either one. On the east side, you have mailboxes. So there's and the hydrants, but we're replacing those as well. So there's impacts either side. But we should, like I said, we should be able to avoid the electric poles with whichever work we want to do.
Okay. Thoughts?
Well, if somebody doesn't want it and they live on that street, they're gonna, I'm glad it's on your side, not mine, or, I'm not against trails and sidewalks, I mean, look at me, but,
Well, and the other thing about it is it's kind of a trail to a dead end almost. You can keep going, you head out of town from that direction, but there are plans on the old walkable, bikeable map where that trail would make sense and it would come into future annex land or whatever it may be to reconnect with other trails on the southern part of Brainerd. But it's just one step. We can talk about it. I don't want to commit to putting a trail in there right now, but I think as far as the engineering and design, stick to designing it with an option to have a trail on either side, see what makes more sense with it, and then when we get more community engagement, then we know if we want to do it or not.
I would make a motion to exactly what our chairman just said.
It's a long motion.
Well, similar to what he just said.
Sure. I'll try to explain that one at the next meeting.
Okay, I'll second that if Jesse feels like he knows what it is.
All right. We have a motion and a second on a long motion. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right. Last item for tonight, we have a proposal for 2024 downtown landscaping services. And this is Public Works Director Dean again. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So staff has received one proposal for plantings for the downtown landscaping as part of the Special Assessment District. The proposal received was from Landsberg in the amount of $9,878.88. Staff recommends award of the landscaping services proposal from Landsberg for the 2024 season.
All right. You guys have anything against this contract or the increase in the budget? I don't think we're really committing to that increase with this motion. Or are you looking for that as well?
If you want to clarify as part of the motion, we'd love for that direction.
Okay. You guys okay with that?
You do more planting than I do. I know you do.
My house.
I'm looking at Tiffany.
Oh,
Not at my house. I mean, that's not a crazy increase in the budget. So yes, I will move to approve the Landsberg Landscape Nursery quote in the amount of $9,878.88.
I'll second that.
motion and a second. Do you want to clarify that that includes?
That includes the
in 1,000?
increase. I am acknowledging there is an increase in that.
All right. Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We can
Why can't-
adjourn to the council meeting.
Why can't we have 15-minute meetings?
We had a 23.